Hi everyone, I'm Arya from Susan's family. Today I'm bringing you the Argyle tote bag from Revisiting the World series. This bag is divided into several parts: the front body, the back body, the bottom edge, the lining, the top edge, the handles and accessories. Overall introduction. First, crochet the front and back bodies and the bottom edge separately. Then cut the lining. After that, make the top edge and the handles. Finally, assemble and attach the accessories. Let's start with the front body. It's made by joining motifs together. First, crochet the motifs, then join them together. Next, crochet edging around the edges. Finally, embroider decorative strands. During the process, you'll need to cut and sew the mesh panel. First, crochet the motif. Use the adjustable magic ring method. Work from the center outward in counterclockwise rounds. The stitches used are chain stitches, double crochets and slip stitches. Now watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Here, for convenience of watching, I'm using one strand of cotton yarn for the demonstration. Random color, for specific yarn, color scheme and hook size. First, make a double magic ring with yarn over on finger. This is the effect after completing the cast on. R1. Chain 3 as turning chains for the double crochet. Count these 3 chains as 1 double crochet, then work 2 double crochets into the whole of the beginning chain. We consider this turning chain, and 2 double crochets as 1 leaf. Chain 3 as a bridge. Work 3 double crochets as the second leaf. After completing, chain 3. Continue to crochet the third leaf. When completed, chain another 3. Crochet the fourth leaf. Finally chain 3. Close the magic ring. Then pick up the top of the beginning chain, hook into the third chain's 2 strands. Finish with a slip stitch. The slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch. Pull tight. Since the next round requires switching colors, secure with 1 chain stitch. Leave a little yarn tail. Cut the yarn. Pull tight. Weave in the end to the wrong side of the fabric. You can weave in a few more stitches for security. Trim the excess yarn tail. Like this, the first round is completed. Take a look. The right side of the fabric has a clear texture. The wrong side has a blurry texture. Keep the right side facing you as you crochet from now on. Move on to crochet round 2. Take the corresponding color yarn. Make a slip knot with the yarn. Then in the previous round, into any chain space, hook out the loop. Adjust the loop size. Joining the yarn is complete. Make 3 beginning chains as the turning chain. Work 2 double crochets into the bottom chain space. Place the starting tail of the yarn over your hook. Weave in ends as you go along. The first leaf is completed. Then work 3 chains. Make 1 leaf in the same chain space. After completing, work 1 chain. In the adjacent chain space, crochet 2 leaves. Work 3 chains between leaves. This entire round is worked into the chain spaces of the previous round. Crochet 2 leaves. Work 3 chains between every 2 leaves. Between every 2 leaves made in separate chain spaces, work 1 chain. Repeat this process to continue crocheting. After completing the leaf in the last space, work 1 chain. Join with a slip stitch to the beginning chain. Pull tight. Leave a yarn tail and fasten off. Weave in the yarn tail along the wrong side's texture. Round 2 is completed. Continue to crochet round 3. In any stitch of the previous round, join yarn in the 3 chain space. Then work 2 leaves in this chain space. Between these 2 leaves, work 3 chains. After completing, work 1 chain. In the adjacent space, work 1 leaf. Continue with 1 chain. In the corner chain space, work 2 leaves. Between these 2 leaves, work 3 chains. Repeat this process as you crochet down. Join with a slip stitch at the end. Pull tight. The third round is completed. Next, work round 4. The method is similar to the third round, but in this round, you need to switch colors while crocheting. Refer to the yarn you are currently using as the main color yarn. First, use the main color yarn. In the large chain space, and the 2 double crochet stitches on the left side, make 1 slip stitch in each. Weave the yarn tail into the chain space. The slip stitches in the oval shape shown in the diagram do not tighten as you crochet. Then work 2 leaves in this chain space. Between these 2 leaves, work 3 chains. Crochet until there is 1 yarn over position left. Reach the corresponding position. The green stitch pattern indicates switching colors to crochet. Take the yarn in the corresponding color, referred to as color 1 from now on. Hold the yarn in your left hand. Yarn over, then draw it through all the loops on your hook. Complete the first leaf, and simultaneously carry out the color change. For all color changes, follow the same method. When you reach the leaf just before the point where you need to switch colors, work the stitch until only the final yarn over remains. Hence switch to the new yarn, and complete that stitch with the new color. Then work 1 chain stitch with color 1. Work 1 leaf in each of the 2 chain spaces on the left side. Crochet 1 chain between the leaves. Leave the yarn tail from joining behind the fabric for now. Weave in the main color yarn ends as you go along. Continue crocheting up to the second leaf. There's 1 yarn over position left. When you reach the corresponding position, switch back to the main color. Leave a yarn tail and fasten off color 1. Place the yarn tail behind the fabric. Work 1 chain stitch with the main color. Crochet 2 leaves in the corner chain space. Work 3 chains between the leaves. Crochet until there's 1 yarn over position left. When you reach the corresponding position, the following red stitches indicate switching colors to crochet. Take the corresponding color yarn. Referred to as color 2 from now on. Pull the yarn through. Complete this leaf. Continue crocheting the corresponding stitches with color 2. Crochet until there's one yarn over position left before the color change stitch. Keep the main color yarn at the back of the fabric. Weave in the ends as you go along. When you reach the corresponding position, switch back to the main color. Leave a yarn tail and fasten off color 2. This entire round is crocheted with the main color. Stitches in the corner chain space. Alternate crocheting with color 1 and color 2 for the remaining stitches. Continue crocheting downward using this method. Finish with a slip stitch in the beginning chain. Pull tight. Measure the size of the motif. If it differs significantly from the dimensions indicated on the chart, it's recommended to adjust your tension and recrochet. Leave a yarn tail and fasten off. Weave in all yarn tails neatly along the texture on the wrong side. Round 4 is complete. One motif is also completed crocheting. Everyone follow the same method. Complete crocheting all required motifs. All motifs have been completed crocheting. Next is joining together. Joining includes horizontal joining and vertical joining. The method is identical. All connections are made by fastening them with a slip stitch. Here I use 4 motifs for demonstration. Color scheme is not for reference. No matter how many motifs to join, the method is the same. First do horizontal joining. Take the corresponding yarn. Tie a knot first. Then pick up the 2 right side motifs. The right side faces out. First take a look. The stitch looks like these 2 strands. The strand closer to you is the front loop. The strand away from you is the back loop. There are 3 chain stitches at the corner of the motif. First insert the hook into the back loop of the middle chain stitch at the corner of the back motif. Then insert into the corresponding half loop of the front motif. Work 1 slip stitch. This completes one connection. Continue by picking the back loop of the left side chain stitch on the back motif, and the corresponding half loop on the front motif. Work a slip stitch. This connects them once again. Continue alternately picking the adjacent half loops like this. Work slip stitches. When you reach the beginning chain, insert the hook into the same chain space where the previous slip stitch was made. Keep joining up to the middle chain space at the left corner. Pay attention not to crochet the slip stitches too tight when connecting, nor too loose. Work evenly. Keep the fabric flat. Now these two motifs are completely joined together. Pick up the next two adjacent motifs on the left side. Join them together using the same method. Start from this chain in the middle of the corner. Continue joining up to the chain at the middle of the left corner. Once done, if you'd like to add more motifs, simply follow the same technique afterward, adding them 2 by 2. This swatch only connects 4 motifs here. No more motifs needed. Crochet a chain stitch to secure. Leave a yarn tail and fasten off. Hide the yarn tail along the wrong side of the piece. The horizontal joining of motifs is now complete. Now begin the vertical joining. Using the same method, take yarn and join. When reaching the corner connection points, skip the chain in the middle of the corner directly. Start from the next stitch. Continue connecting the next group of motifs. Once completed, leave a yarn tail and fasten off. Weave in the yarn tail along the texture on the wrong side. This completes the vertical joining. And the motif joining is now fully explained. Next, we need to trim the grid board. Here I'll continue using the swatch for demonstration. Size is random. Please pay attention and follow the actual project you have in hand. Use stitch markers to secure the fabric to the grid board. If you don't have stitch markers, you can use safety pins or paper clips instead. Trim along the fabric's edge. Pay attention not to cut the fabric. Remove the fabric. Try to trim the edges as neat as possible. Trimming the grid board. Now the grid board is trimmed and ready. Cut another piece of the same size. Set the trimmed grid board aside for later use. Now proceed to crochet the edging. Work in rounds along the joined motifs. A new stitch technique will be used. Single crochet. Hold the piece with the right side facing you. Join yarn in the chain space at the corner on the right. Work one chain as beginning chain. The beginning chain for the single crochet doesn't count as one stitch. Work 3 single crochets in the same chain space. Work single crochets in each stitch on the left, one by one. When you reach a chain space, skip it and do not work into it. When you reach the beginning chain, insert your hook into the same chain space where the previous slip stitch was made. Work one single crochet in the corner chain space. At the joining point, pick approximately the middle position and work one single crochet. Work one single crochet in the chain space of the adjacent motif's corner. Repeat this process all the way around to complete the round. After completing, do not join with a slip stitch. Leave a yarn tail of about 10 centimeters and cut the yarn. Simply pull the yarn end out. Next, begin finishing off. Thread the yarn tail into a yarn needle. From front to back, pass through the first single crochet stitch, where you started. Then go back into the chain where the yarn tail is located. Adjust slightly. Finishing is complete. This is how you finish off. The seam is invisible from the surface, looks neater and more attractive. Weave in the yarn tail along the texture on the wrong side. Edging is now complete. Finally, sew the mesh panel onto the back side of the front body. Take a piece of yarn in corresponding color. Thread it into the yarn needle. Sample colors are random. Tie a knot at the yarn end. You can secure it with a stitch marker for now. Then, following the insertion points of the edging, sew it to the edge stitches of the mesh panel. You can also choose to pick up only the top loops for sewing. Like this. This way, the seam won't be visible from the front. Feel free to choose based on personal preference. Just make sure it's securely fastened. Pay attention not to sew into the stitches of the edging itself. Method here is random for the swatch. Once completed, tie off and weave in the ends neatly. The mesh panel is now sewn together. Continue to embroider the decorative lines. Follow the diagonals of the motif. Embroider 2 colors in parallel, crossing each other. Please watch the demonstration. Start from any corner at the edge of the motif. End at the opposite corner. Take the corresponding color yarn. Cut a long tail. Fold it in half. Thread the yarn tail into the yarn needle. Exit through the single crochet stitch at the joining position. Insert into the hole at the corner. Then back through the loop. Exit through the next hole. Insert into the adjacent hole. Exit through the neighboring hole. Insert into the center of the motif. Embroider symmetrically on this side as before. Finally insert into the single crochet stitch at the joining position. Tie a knot and weave in the end on the wrong side of the fabric. So one decorative strand is finished. I'll demonstrate once again. Starting from this corner nearby, take a long tail, fold it in half, thread the needle. Exit from behind the middle single crochet stitch at this motif corner. Insert into the hole at the corner. Then back through the loop. Then follow the same embroidery method as the previous strand. First embroider this motif to the opposite corner position. Be mindful not to twist the yarn. As demonstrated earlier with E, when reaching the corresponding position, insert into the hole at the next motif corner. Continue embroidering. Finally, insert into the middle single crochet stitch at the corner. Tie a knot and weave in the end on the wrong side of the piece. Another strand is now complete. For the following strands, the motif positions and embroidery methods are identical, only the starting and ending insertion points differ slightly. When reaching a joining position, insert into the corresponding single crochet stitch. When reaching a corner position, insert into the middle single crochet stitch at the corner. Repeat this process. Complete embroidering the remaining strands. Up to this point, the decoration with embroidered strands is now complete. The entire front part has now been fully demonstrated. Next, we'll move on to the back part. We will start with a foundation chain. Work back and forth in rows to crochet the main part. After completing it, crochet the edging in rounds. Finally, sew on the mesh panel. No new stitch techniques are used here. Please watch the demonstration. It should be noted that this section is worked with 2 strands of yarn held together as one. Since the yarn is quite special, it's not easy to unravel. We recommend that before you start crocheting, use leftover yarn at home and follow along with the video demonstration to first learn the crocheting method. Once you're comfortable, then use the corresponding yarn to crochet. For the swatch, I'll continue to demonstrate with cotton yarn. First, make a foundation chain, leaving a yarn tail. Make a slip knot. The starting knot doesn't count as one stitch. Gently tighten. Then refer to the chart and crochet the corresponding number of chain stitches. Here, you can make the chain slightly loose. This makes it easier for the following crocheting. After finishing, check the stitch count. 1 chain space represents 1 stitch. Remember, the loop on the hook is not included. This completes the casting on. Now work row 1. First, make 1 chain as beginning chain. The turning chain of single crochet doesn't count as 1 stitch. Then, insert the hook into the top loop of the second chain from the left and make a single crochet. On this single crochet stitch, place a marker to mark it. Continue to pick the adjacent half loop. Work 1 single crochet into each stitch correspondingly, all the way down to the starting chains. Row 1 crocheting is finished. You can count the stitches now. The number of stitches equals how many you've crocheted. The stitch count matches the starting chain count. Now move on to row 2. First, make 2 chains as beginning chains. These beginning chains don't count as 1 stitch. Turn the work piece. Because you're now on the wrong side of the previous row, the stitches correspond to the loops at the top left of the single crochets. Start from the first stitch. First, work 1 double crochet. Place a marker on this double crochet stitch to mark it. Then, work double crochets evenly into each stitch. Continue all the way down to the last stitch of the previous row. That completes row 2. Now continue with row 3. Chain 1 as beginning chain. Turn the work. Work single crochets into each stitch in sequence. Place a stitch marker in the first single crochet. Row 3 is now complete. Next, take another mesh panel, and lay your fabric out as flat as possible. Aligning its width roughly with that of the mesh panel. If the widths differ significantly, adjust your tension, and consider reworking the rows for a better fit. For all remaining rows, alternate between 1 row of single crochet and 1 row of double crochet, following the same pattern established in rows 2-3. Remember to place a stitch marker as you crochet. Watch out for extra or missing stitches. Everyone continue to complete the remaining rows. Fit the piece against the grid board as you go. The height should match the height of the grid board. If there's a big difference, It's okay as long as the fabric lies flat, and isn't tight or puckering. You can adjust the number of rows, based on your actual situation. It's okay as long as the fabric lies flat, and isn't tight or puckering. Do not cut the yarn after completing the crocheting. Up to this point, the main part is complete. Now we'll add the edging. Make one beginning chain to start. Turn the piece. Pick up stitches, and work single crochets evenly into each stitch. Crochet 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Slightly rotate the piece. For the next row of double crochets, pick up stitches along the side edge at approximate positions. Work 2 single crochets. On the single crochet row, work 1 single crochet into each corresponding stitch. Follow this pattern. Continue all the way along this side edge until finished. Keep the fabric flat and neat. After completing the last hole, at the insertion point of the last single crochet from the first row, make 2 single crochets. Weave in the yarn tails as you go along. Continue picking up the insertion points from the first row. Work single crochets evenly into each stitch. Make 2 single crochets into the insertion point of the last stitch. Continue working single crochets along the side edge. Finally, at the insertion point of the first single crochet, work 1 more single crochet. Leave a tail of about 10 centimeters and cut the yarn. Begin fastening off. Weave in the tail along the backside texture to secure it neatly. Edging completed. The side with clearer texture from this edging round will be considered the right side of the entire piece. Finally, sew the mesh panel onto the back side of the back body. The method is similar to the sewing method used for the front body. Please sew it neatly on your own. Up to this point, the sewing of the mesh panel has been explained. At the same time, the explanation for the back body is also complete. Next, crochet the bottom edge. The crocheting method is similar to that of the back body, only the stitch count and row count are different. First, work the main part. Crochet and fit well with the front body as you go. Both sides should be approximately level with the center of the motif above. Bottom edge. The bottom edge should match the length of the front bodice bottom edge. Refer to the chart for width. Do not cut the yarn after completing crocheting. Then cut the mesh panel. Cut one piece for each side. Cut one piece for the bottom edge. A total of 3 pieces. Then crochet edging around the fabric piece. The edging technique is similar to that of the back body. Everyone can simply follow the chart to crochet. After completing, sew the mesh panels to the wrong side of the fabric piece respectively. Make sure to sew them up securely. Up to this point, the bottom edge explanation is complete. Next, cut the lining. First, cut the front and back body linings. Take the lining fabric, fold it in half. Place the front body on the lining fabric. Tidy up and lay flat. Leave about 0.5 centimeters at the edges. Trace along the edge of the front body. Extend outward by about 0.5 centimeters for seam allowance. Cut along the line. Pay attention to aligning the front and back fabric pieces when cutting. This completes the cutting of the front and back lining pieces. Next, cut the bottom edge lining. Cut one piece for each side. Cut one piece for the bottom edge. Look everyone. This is what the lining fabric looks like after cutting. Next, take the sewing thread. Insert it into a thin needle. Fold the thread in half and tie a knot at the yarn end. Starting from the marked lines, go outward, into the seam allowance section. Sew together. First, place the longer bottom edge lining piece in the middle. The 2 shorter pieces are sewn on each end. Sew one side first. You can make the stitches closer together. Finally, tie a knot and cut the thread. Sew the other side using the same method. Get this part done. After finishing the bottom edge, sew the front and back bodies to both sides respectively. You can first roughly secure the front and back pieces like this. Then sew along the overlapping section. Please sew the pieces together on your own. This completes the lining section. Next, we'll crochet the top edge, which consists of 2 identical panels. The method is similar to that used for the bottom edge, but with different stitch and row counts. First, crochet each panel separately, checking its fit against the front piece as you go. The length of the top edge panel, when combined with the bottom edge, should precisely encircle the entire perimeter of the front and back pieces. After completing crocheting, work 1 row of single crochet along one side of the piece. Correspondingly, work 2 single crochets into each double crochet row, and 1 single crochet into each single crochet row. The position for inserting the bell can be adjusted according to actual conditions. After finishing crocheting, leave a yarn tail of about 20 centimeters for sewing. The swatch here I've already completed crocheting. Take the side with clearer texture as the right side. When adding the border, refer to the pattern and complete crocheting accordingly. Up to this point, the top edge explanation is complete. Move on to work the handle, consisting of the handle and the handle fastener. First, crochet the handle. There are 2 identical ones. First, crochet the main part of each handle separately. Then add the border. Start with a foundation chain for the main part. Work back and forth in rows. Please see the demonstration. Start with a chain stitch. Refer to the chart for the exact number of stitches. Casting on complete. Now work row 1. Chain 1 as beginning chain. From the second stitch from your hook, pick up 1 strand on the top of the chain. Correspondingly make single crochets. Row 1 completed. Continue to crochet row 2. Make 1 chain as beginning chain. Turn the work. Pick up the stitch and work single crochets evenly. Row 2 completed. For the remaining rows, crochet in the same way as row 2. Work even with single crochets. Odd numbered rows show the right side texture, forming a series of V shapes. Even numbered rows show the wrong side texture. There's a strand lying across the top. Just count the rows by alternating front and back sides. This is the way to count rows when working back and forth. The method for counting rows. Row numbers in the chart are for reference only. Actual number of rows can be adjusted according to personal preference. After completing crocheting, cut the yarn normally and weave in the ends. Everyone refer to the chart and finish crocheting accordingly. Up to this point, the main part has been explained. Next, proceed with the border. Leave 12 rows at both the beginning and ending of the main part. On the 12th row, place stitch markers in the chain spaces at both ends. Place a marker. Work the border between these 2 stitch markers. Start from either end. Take the cotton cord and wrap it into stitches. Leave a little length at the beginning. take the corresponding color yarn. Join yarn at the marked stitch. Chain 1 as beginning chain. In the same stitch where yarn is joined, work 1 single crochet. Then insert hook into the space between rows at both ends simultaneously. Into the chain space between rows, work a single crochet. While crocheting, weave the cotton cord into stitches as you go. Continue crocheting until reaching the other marker position. After completing crocheting, leave a yarn tail of about 5 centimeters. Cut the yarn. Hide the tail end into the fabric. Tidy up the fabric. Trim off excess cotton cord. You can slightly shorten it. Wrap it into the fabric. So one handle is made. Everyone follow the same method. Make the other handle. Now crochet the handle attachment loop. First crochet, then sew on the snap button. Begin with a foundation chain, work back and forth. Method is similar to the handle. After completing the main part, crochet edging in rounds. Finish off by leaving a yarn tail. Refer to the chart and complete crocheting. The swatch here I've already crocheted. Use the side with clearer texture as the right side of the piece. Then on both ends of the fabric. Sew the snap buttons on right side and wrong side respectively. The snap button comes in a pair like this. Here I'll take 1/2 as an example. To demonstrate the sewing method, take thread and insert into a thin needle. Fold in half and tie a knot at the yarn end. Place the snap button at the corresponding position. Mindful that the back side sticks close to the fabric. Don't sew on the wrong side. Pick up the fabric surface to sew. Try not to show stitches on the other side, to keep it looking neat. After completing one hole, carry the yarn across through the fabric. Continue sewing. Attach the other half of the snap button using the same method. Go ahead and finish it up. That's all for the snap button explanation. The handles have also been explained. Next, let's move on to assembly and attaching accessories. Divide into front and back bodies. Sewing the bottom and top edges. Sewing on the handles. Wooden tag. Zipper. Sewing the lining. And installing the handle fastener. First, assemble the fabric pieces. Cut a piece of yarn slightly longer, in the corresponding color, thread the needle, set it aside for now. Next, take the front and back bodies. Bottom edge. Top edge. With the right sides facing out. Use stitch markers to secure the corresponding joining points. Secure well at corners and along the long sides. Note that the side with the edging on the top edge should face outward. Pick up the yarn needle. Start by sewing the front body. Begin at any point. Secure the tail on the wrong side. Then sew along the corresponding stitches of the edging. Adjust as you go. Just keep the sewing roughly even. Make sure the fabric stays flat. The front body is now sewn together. Everyone follow the same method. To sew up the back body. Next, sew the two sides of the top edge. Start with one side. Thread the reserved yarn tail into the needle. Xiao Yu Shika. After completing, tie a knot and weave in ends on the wrong side. One side of the top edge is now done. Follow the same method to sew the other side. Now sew on the handle. Fix one end to the front body. Secure both ends of the handle at the centered position where the motifs on both sides are joined. Pay attention that the border side of the handle faces the inside of the bag. Leave a slight distance below the opening. Once the position is confirmed, you can use pins to secure it in place. Then sew along the edge where the handle overlaps with the front body. First, cut a piece of corresponding color yarn about 30 centimeters long. Take 2 strands from it. Thread the needle. Tie a knot at the yarn end. Secure along the edge. One side is now completed. Sew the other side using the same method. On the wrong side, attach the handle symmetrically to the front body. For convenience in later steps, the handle fastener can be attached at the end. Up to this point, the handle sewing is now complete. Continue sewing on the wooden tag. Position the wooden tag between the 2 straps on the back body, roughly centered. The center of the wooden tag should be level with the bottom edge of the straps. The exact position is not fixed. Adjust according to personal preference. Here I'll demonstrate using a swatch. Position is random. Take a piece of yarn, about 30 centimeters long in corresponding color. Thread the needle. Pay attention to the orientation of the letters. Now the wooden tag is sewn on. Next, sew in the lining. Take the thread. Insert into a thin needle. Fold in half and tie a knot at the yarn ends. Place the lining inside the bag. Match up the edges and corners. Stretch out the lining. Stick the bottom to the base of the bag. Once you confirm it's lying flat, fold the excess lining inward. Leave a little distance above the grid board. Secure it at several points first. Then sew it to the edge of the fabric piece. Secure the yarn tail inside the fabric. Pay attention and adjust as needed. Make sure it lies flat. Repeat this process. Sew around the outer ring of the grid board. The size is 35 floors larger than the demonstration by Woo. Tie off and weave in the ends when completed. Now the lining is sewn on. Next, sew on the zipper. Along the top edge of the bag opening, sew the zipper to both sides. Next, watch the sewing method for the zipper. Note that this only demonstrates the method, neither the sample nor the colorway should be taken as reference. Continue sewing the zipper. Here I demonstrate using a swatch. Sew the zipper onto the opening. First, cut a piece of thread longer than needed. Thread the needle. Fold the tail in half and tie a knot. Set it aside for now. Before sewing, let's get familiar with the zipper structure. When closed, the end with the zipper head is the top stop position. The other end is the bottom stop position. The two sides are the tapes. There are zipper chains on the tapes. Position the opening towards yourself, according to your preferred usage. Choose which end to place the zipper head on. Align the bottom stop of the zipper with one side of the opening. Remember to keep the zipper head facing up. Make sure the orientation is correct. You can first fit the zipper to check its length. Leave roughly the same length at both ends of the zipper. Secure the bottom stop to the opening. When securing, be mindful that stitches shouldn't show on the surface. Sew a few times to secure well. Also sew a few stitches on the excess part of the bottom stop. Once the bottom stop is fixed, open the zipper. Roughly align the opening edge with the zipper chain. Then begin sewing one side of the tape to the fabric. Pick up stitches from the main part edging and sew together. Gently tighten the yarn. Make sure no sewing trace shows on the surface. Sew as closely as possible to secure it more firmly. Pay attention to adjusting the zipper and fabric while sewing. Ensure the zipper teeth correspond to the fabric edge. Keep the opening flat at the same time. The fabric should not flare out or pull in. Everyone continue sewing using this method. At the end, sew a few more times to secure. Sew to the other side position. Zip up the zipper. Sew a few stitches to secure the two top stops to the fabric. Pay attention to aligning the center of the zipper with the reserved position. Zipper head facing outward. Do not sew it in. The excess zipper length is about 60L. Once secured, you can slightly fix the excess part of the zipper to the fabric. Or leave a little distance and cut off the excess part. Just decide according to your preference. If the yarn tail is still long, return and sew over it again, to make it more secure. Tie a knot and weave in the end when done. This secures one side of the zipper. Use the same sewing method for the other side. Pay attention to zip up the zipper as you sew. Adjust the position. To prevent the two sides of the zipper from being sewn crooked, and at the same time, mind that the fabric doesn't flare out or pull in. Keep it neat. Everyone finish this part. Look. This is the swatch, showing how it looks after the zipper is sewn on. That concludes the explanation of the zipper. Finally, attach the handle clasp to both handles. Up to this point, the assembly and attaching of accessories are complete, and the entire bag has now been explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.